man, I'm embarrassed. Hello, and welcome to the first ever live stream live. We are streaming live to three different platforms. We are on Instagram Live, YouTube, and Facebook Live. I hope everyone's doing well today. My name is Joshua Schubart. I'm an actor, writer, producer, stage combatant, voiceover artist, um, audiobook narrator, nerd. I'm a father of two, and now I guess I'm hosting a live show. This is my magical hosty cup of water. It's Ted Lasso, and I love it. So let's get right into it. I'm going to uh, talk about what I'm watching, if there's any pop culture events that I'm really into, and then we're going to introduce my guest for today. His name is Evan Pickering. He is an author. He just published his latest book in the Hymn of the Ancient series, book 3. I'm a huge fan. I am also blood related to this man. He is my brother. We have spent our entire lives together. But as a creative person and an actor, I spend a lot of time talking to people and trying to understand them. So I thought, why not have a show where I get to talk to people and also come to understand them? And yeah, so as comments go, we will try and answer as many of your questions as we possibly can. I can see all of them in Instagram. It's going to take me a minute to scroll through them all, and they should pop up pretty immediately from YouTube and Facebook if you're watching there. But anyway, so let's get right into it. What am I watching now? I am watching The Penguin on HBO, which is masterful and wonderful. And if you haven't seen it yet, I don't know why. It's one of the best Batman things I've seen in a long time. Colin Farrell's performance is just magnificent. When you're in acting school, you do a lot of work with masks and using mask work and things of that nature, and that's essentially what a prosthetic is. You're acting through an artifice that isn't you, that's becoming you. I don't know if I could make that any more artsy than I already have, but he's doing an incredible job at doing that. So, and the performances are also real and also grounded, and there should be people nominated for multiple Emmys from this show. Yeah, have you seen the show? If you have, let me know. Pop it in the comments. We can talk about that either now or at the end or in the middle or whenever. And I'm also watching Agatha All Along on Disney Plus, and I have to say, I was skeptical as shit about Agatha all along. I didn't know what it was going to be, all the working title changes and all that stuff. But it ended up, I'm in love with it. It's so much fun. It's so beautifully shot. It's written really well. Everyone is so freaking awesome in it. Yeah, man, I'm loving Agatha too. It's so good. I just really enjoy it, and I didn't think I would enjoy it this much. A lot of the Marvel TV shows, to me at least, have been kind of a disappointment. So I am very pleased to see that they're trending up in a really good, positive way. And also, like, this is like ultra feminist, queer as hell, and just really well done in a way that, like, if you're hating on it, it's just because you have issues with types of people or you don't like to see a bunch of strong women or whatever. But yeah, do I think Mephisto is going to show up? If Mephisto doesn't show up, it'll be like multiple year-long blue balls waiting for this dude to fucking show up. Like everyone thought that he was going to show up in WandaVision, and there were all these hints like, oh, it's his wallpaper, oh, he's that bug or whatever. But I thought the teen was gonna be Mephisto, and then I thought that the what's her face, the Aubrey Plaza, who is playing Death, which I think is fucking sick. was going to be Mephisto, but we'll probably see him or her or they, however they end up doing that. Mephisto is a demon, so what are you gonna do? Yeah. Did you know a bunch of queer witches is what I didn't know that a bunch of queer witches is what I needed in my life too. But here's the thing about that, and I want to make a quick comment about it before I bring Evan up. Um, you know, we talk about stuff in this a lot in these terms now. Like it's a queer show, it's a black show, it's a Latino show, it's a whatever show. Um, for me and for most people, if the show is good, and it doesn't really matter what the story's about because it's just a really good story, and that's all that people want to see is compelling stories. And if we can get more cool compelling stories from all parts of the world, and all cultures and sexualities and like everything, then I just think we'll have a much better microcosm of entertainment and much healthier TV and films, just because, yeah, it's been cool to see what's been made. Um, yes. As for like things happening in the world or pop culture, obviously we're all getting ready to vote. Or if you haven't yet, early voting is a thing almost everywhere. Get out there and cast your vote. It's important all the time, but it's important now more than ever. I know I'm just a guy on the internet that has a microphone and a camera, and you're watching me and I'm speaking to you. But yeah, voting is huge. Let's all go out and let's all vote. Let's vote. That's it, voting. Yeah, it's a really good story. But to see Marvel just being this much in your face about sexuality is awesome. I agree with that too. Seeing Marvel being in your face with just sexuality in general, when it is such a thing in the comic books and just has been forever, is very like awesome to see too. I mean, X-Men 97 obviously leaned into this very, very hard, but which is another great example of just incredible shit. And that's an animation that made me cry more than most hardcore dramas, which I think is crazy. All right, let me intro Evan Pickering. Evan Pickering is an Amazon best-selling author. He has self-published 7 of his own goddamn novels, which I think is an incredibly hard thing to do. And especially being a bestseller, he's also gotten such good deals and notoriety and popularity both here in America and internationally. I'm a huge fan of his, not just because we are members of the same family, we are biological cousins, but we are brothers in every other sense of the word and feeling and everything else. So it's my honor to bring up and introduce to you, maybe for the first time, Evan Pickering.
Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's very hilarious that thankfully I'm here, but my the I have my laptop set up on my desktop right now because my desktop camera / microphone just decided to explode right before this began. So I'm glad
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm glad I made it in before the starting.
I'm glad you made it in too, because if you didn't, I'd just be talking about Agatha for the entirety of the show.
You'd be like, all right, we're talking comics, we're talking Marvel, we're talking everything.
We're talking comics, we're talking Marvel. We can talk about Warhammer, D&D. We'll talk about any fucking video game that we possibly can.
I mean, that is the life hack about being a huge nerd, is that like you really never run out of things to talk about when it comes to arts or anything. You could just like, oh, I'll just go on, like bring up a subject, I'll talk about it forever. Who cares?
Yeah, I can talk about it forever. I mean, I can also talk about football, like the NFL. I mean, like I'm not just a nerd. I'm also like a sportsman guy. I don't know, sports guy.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's like the elite state. Is like I love being able to be both a nerd and also be like, I like to play basketball, I like to watch football. Like, why not do all of it? You know what I mean? Like, I love that. That's definitely.
Why can't you do everything?
Why can't you have it all? Evan? Gosh dang it! Why can't you have it all?
Why can't we have it all?
Why not, you crazy bastard?
Why not? All right. So
Yeah.
we're
Anyway,
here to talk about your new novel,
Legacy of the Betrayer,
which is book 3 of your.
Hymn of the Ancients series.
That's sick. So from what I understand about it is this isn't from what I understand, and like I haven't read them. This this is an epic epic fantasy world,
Mhm.
completely new,
Mhm.
that you made up all by yourself with your magical brain.
I sure did.
Um, so what is this trilogy about in a nutshell?
This is one of those questions that's so fun. I feel like as an author, it's so hard to like I actually have to work at answering this question the right way because there's so many different directions you can go. But ultimately, kind of what I've landed on was it's a series it's an epic fantasy adventure that for me I wanted to be grounded in a lot of like dark fantasy elements. And when I say that, like I want the world to feel real. I want the characters to feel like they could be you or me or anyone else, right? That there is this like, obviously a high fantasy, epic fantasy, like dark fantasy, where you end up on that spectrum, or you could be both or whatever is interesting. But for me, it was like I wanted a story about characters that you just would be interested to read about regardless of whether they were in a fantasy world or a sci-fi world or our world. Like I wanted a character driven story in a fantasy world, that just has like packed full of action and adventure and fun and humor and so in terms of the plot, it follows some kind of standard fantasy elements. The main character Leo he was born to like the greatest. He's like the grandson of the greatest hero of the Northern Kingdoms, and
Okay.
um and he decides that he wants nothing to do with that. Like all he ever wanted in his life was to be free to live his life the way he wanted, rather than like be confined to castles and keeps and council meetings and all this stuff. So he like leaves it all behind. He throws away his lordly title and everything and leaves to go become an excavator, which are
So would you
basically
say that he's like a hedge fund kid that moves to Brooklyn and tries to make a name for himself?
yeah, honestly, in a way, yeah. Like he comes from the elite, which is funny, and like obviously he's a skilled swordsman and warrior. His father was a warrior, and so like he was taught all the skill at arms, because it is kind of a sword and sorcery story. It is like a swashbuckling, magic and fighting adventure too. So he's like a very, very capable warrior. Um, but ultimately, like philosophically, he just doesn't agree with sort of like his upbringing. Like he doesn't want to be a part of like the lordly caste, and so he kind of throws it all away. And like when people see him out in the world in the story, they're kind of like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Like, why would you throw away everything?"
Yeah.
But to him, like I like the idea of the character, because obviously there's the fancy trope of like starting at the bottom and like unlikely hero from the bottom. Like I like the idea of an unlikely hero from the top. Like he was born to the elite class, but he decides that that's not the world he wants, so he leaves
Yeah,
it
so he
behind.
wants to be a man of the people, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and he wants to pursue his own interests, which is like explore the world, discover secrets of the ancient world. Like in this fantasy world, like many fantasy worlds, there is like ancient civilizations that have been lost, and like
Okay.
histories that have been lost. So what he joins an excavator crew, and excavators are basically like poor, mostly like poor commoners who search the world looking for relics of the ancient civilizations, because if they find them, they can sell them for like boatloads of money and get rich. It's kind of like trying to find Willy Wonka lotto tickets, like
Okay.
um and so like he joins this kind of ragtag crew, and like they become his friends and his companions. It's like, kind of unlikely group of companions of all different walks of life. And the story begins, they're just kind of doing their thing. It's the day in the life, classic storytelling begins with a day in the life.
Classic
Um,
storytelling.
Classic storytelling. And
Classic.
then he discovers he accidentally like is drawn to this place and falls through a sinkhole and finds like deep buried in the earth this like ancient church that was like somehow preserved through time. And in that church he finds a tome that when he touches it he realizes it's magical, and like he starts having visions and seeing things. And he realized that this sort of thing hasn't been found in like thousands of years. And so he's like, oh my God, he just found the quote unquote Willy Wonka lotto ticket, right?
Yeah.
But when that happens, all of a sudden, like people he has no idea who they are start coming out of the woodwork and start hunting him and his friends. And then kind of like the adventure goes. Like the adventure goes from there of like discovering like what is this tome, what's the history of it, what's at stake, who knows about this, and why are they hunting it, and why are they hunting Leo, the main character, and his friends. And I'm very much like, I love mystery. I've always loved mysteries, and I work a lot of mystery into the novels, as you know, and they kind of like unfurl themselves through each novel. Kind of has its own like big mystery or mysteries that unfurl as the story goes. And
so how much influence would you say, like, you and I have a history of playing a lot of D&D and things of that nature. How much of an influence was that in creating this world?
Oh, like hugely. I mean, I think a lot of what I basically did in creating the world was like I blended a lot of different fantasy things that I loved. Like it's a little bit Game of Thrones, it's a little bit Dragon Age, it's a little bit D&D. Well, it's probably a lot of it D&D, because there's a lot of like the classic D&D races and things like that.
Sure.
And so in many ways, it is a somewhat familiar fantasy world. I've sort of just like crafted in my own way, and there's different elements. There's all their own, there's their own religions and gods and histories and political intrigue and conflicts and stuff like that. And I basically, as you said, like I was inspired by all the stuff we loved growing up, dude. Like, even things like Dragonlance when we were kids reading.
Dragonlance. But so right. So in those books, those were what, like kid fantasy? Like no one ever really dies, right?
Yeah, I mean, like a few characters would die, but when they die, it would be like cinematic. It was like, it was very high fantasy. Like, in Dragonlance, when Sturm dies, he dies like nobly to save everyone when they're
right. He like dies like on a griffin, like
fire
or whatever he does.
But I agree with you. It's like a million novels, and most of the characters are alive throughout it all. So yeah, it definitely follows like the kind of classic high fantasy, like Heroes of Heroes arc. And like,
Evan, look. Very handsome man.
Very handsome man.
Well, you did it.
All right.
He's definitely talking about you. He's not talking about me. He's talking about you.
Talking about me? I think he's
talking about you. Talking about me. Talking about you. Talking about me.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you, dude. Thanks for the compliment. I appreciate that. But yeah, so I think a lot of stuff you and I grew up reading, video games we played, D&D we played, everything. You and I, we've been fantasy nerds our whole life. And I think I realized, my first series I wrote was not fantasy. It was post-apoc sci-fi, but it was a Robin Hood story. But the more I wrote, I realized like the fantasy is what I love the most, because you and I, we played all those games together. We did all the stuff together. And it was like, it was the type of storytelling that I resonated with you the most and I enjoyed the most.
That's great. Yeah. And I think it's awesome. And you can totally tell in your work that you have a love for this world and this type of writing and this type of storytelling. Because I mean, in my opinion, I've read a lot of fantasy. It is very masterfully done.
That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a fun tale. It's a great story. It's got a lot of twists and turns and fun characters. And one of the things that I like a lot, and I know that like maybe it's kind of like deep cut stuff for like people that really like and enjoy fantasy, is all the like poems and like songs and things that you've added into your story. They feel very like Tolkien and very reminiscent of very classic fantasy. Like it's like an homage to. Yeah.
I mean, I love that, dude. I love that you appreciate that stuff. And in truth, I mean, you're right. It's very on point. Like one of the things that's interesting is like, for me anyway, is that my stories, these novels are kind of a blend. Like there are a lot of people who say the stories remind them of Lord of the Rings. I actually, like, one of my favorite reviews I ever gotten was someone was like, I can't put the book down. It reminds me of Lord of the Rings. And I was like, that's so awesome. And like, I as someone who, I'm obsessed. We're both obsessed with Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Like I took so much inspiration from that, and but I always love that, because it's obviously Tolkien is the master. He's like to even be mentioned in similar sentences with him is like an honor beyond compare. Yeah. So it's really cool. But yeah, I love that. I love the idea of like painting the world with a rich paintbrush. Of like put in poems and music and songs, make like without, and the big thing for me was like, I wanted the tempo and the pace of the story to still feel like fun and modern and kind of like, go at a good clip, and just kind of like sprinkle breadcrumb in all the world building and the culture and everything as it goes. I like that model. I like that kind of, I guess, slightly more modern model of it. But yeah, I mean, Tolkien's a huge inspiration for me, and yeah, I do.
That's
I
great.
love that stuff. It was fun to
So
do.
you didn't go the conventional publishing route.
Hmm.
You published everything on your own.
Hmm.
Um, can you speak a little bit about why? Like, I know it's not a little bit. You can go forever, but
Oh, I could
yeah, what
I
is
could pee all
the
about this.
benefit of publishing on your own versus conventional publishing?
Yeah, I really, this is something like you said, I can go off about this, but I something I'd love to talk about, especially to people, anyone who will listen, especially if they're potential writers or anything to that sort. Um, I think obviously people should follow the path that best suits them. If they really don't like being at the helm of their own controls in terms of like the marketing, the advertising, the all that stuff. Like I understand why some people want to go conventionally published, but
I
the
would
truth
imagine
is,
that a lot to learn, right? You have to learn how to do everything
oh
versus just
yeah,
one thing.
yeah, I've learned. I mean, I've learned a tremendous amount doing self publishing. The cool thing is though, like for people who want to do it, there's so many resources out there now. People like you go on Reddit self publishing. You could go, there's tons of websites and other authors who have like shared their knowledge about how to do it and do it well. It obviously takes a lot of work, but like so does everything else, So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, the data shows actually like the majority of people publish, the vast majority of people publish are self-publishing now, and a lot of people who do conventionally publish are actually hybrid, like they do both through like big publishing houses and also on their own. But I think from my like philosophically, I love it because it gives creative control and it gives all the potential for growth to the author and to the creator of the work. And I like my story around this, and I'll try to tell the condensed version because I'll get rambly about it. But like when I originally was trying to sell Hood, you remember when
I
I
do.
was trying to get Hood out there, I was going to writing conferences and talking to editors and agents and all this stuff.
So Hood is Evan's first really popular novel. It was
Yeah.
a post-apocalyptic,
Hmm.
uh, incredible book, Robin Hood adaptation in a
Hmm.
post-apocalyptic world,
Yes.
and it's incredible. And you can find all of Evan's books on Amazon. If you go to Amazon and you type in Evan Pickering, they'll all pop up, and you can buy them. And he's also on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that, you can just put his books in your Kindle because it's part of your subscription. All right.
Hey.
So sorry. So,
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate the shout out. That's awesome. Yeah, no. So I was going and I was trying to sell the book, and I talked to some agents and editors, and I got some rejections. I got a lot of people saying like it's good, but I don't know. Like we don't know if there's a market, blah blah blah, and yeah, kind of the thing that you get a lot of. And it's hard. Anyone who's tried to write a book and tried to do conventional publish, like it's hard not to get frustrated at the rejection letters. It just like sucks, and at some point, like you believe in your work, and you're like trying to,
sure.
and it just feels weird trying to like peddle it to people and be like trying to get them to believe in it too. And you're like, I don't know, the whole process felt kind of gross, and I didn't like it. And I met this one woman, Joanna Penn, JF Penn. She's a pretty well-known self-published advocate. And I saw her at a panel, and she spoke. And then after the panel, I walked up to her in the library section, and I was like, hey, I really like what you said. I was really curious about self-publishing. Can you tell me about it? And she pretty much gave me the whole laydown. And she basically said, like, look, you don't need the publishers need you.
Sure.
And it totally reframed my whole mindset. It's like the publishers are not writing novels. They are trying to find people who wrote novels so they can sell them. So it's like, and she pretty much said, like, it's the new world. Like you can publish on your own, you can do your own thing. And obviously there's more work involved, um, but for me, me, like I'm very similar to you in this. Like I love taking ownership of my own work and like building it myself.
Yeah.
And so I got so fired up. I was like so excited. By the time I left the conference after I talked to her, I was so excited to self-publish. Like I was hoping I was getting rejected from my other queries. Like I was like, Like if they accepted
You're
me,
like,
I was
please
very,
God, I don't want this anymore. I want to do it myself. Please
but
God.
literally, I was like, getting the knowledge of knowing like that you could succeed on your own was like, granted, this was many years ago. This was like 20
I
years
will say that
ago.
it is a thing that I
Yeah.
mean we tend to both gravitate towards is
Yeah.
doing it ourselves and like
Mhm.
believing in our product and our work and presenting it to folks
Mhm.
and largely unapologetically, like just like
Yeah.
here it is. I think you'll like it. I hope you
Yeah.
will. But if you don't, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. And that's something, and I know you and I, we talk about this a lot, and it's something that really resonates with me. And it's like, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like you got to have pride and love in your work. And you and I, we both, I mean, you're definitely like this. Always admire how you go so hard at like, this is my shit and I love it and I'm putting it out there. And I am like,
Compliment. Oh yes.
and no, but you just
No.
like, I love that you just, I love you. You don't let anything stop you. You're like, I'm going full bore. Like, I believe in this. This is what it is. We're doing it. And it's infectious, and it's really cool. And, you've helped me in that way that like, I love doing it myself, but it was, when I was younger, it was harder for me to advocate for myself. But now as I'm older, I'm like, yeah, I fucking love these books that I wrote. Like, I'm proud of them. They're awesome. And like,
You
I
should
think,
be. They're fucking great, and you worked really hard at them.
yeah. And it's like, it's come a long way, but it's cool, and I think that that's, the self-made thing is something I take a lot of pride in, and I know you do too. And it's also like the big thing for me that I love with self-publishing is that like you succeed or fail on your own, which like that can be scary, but it also gives you tons of potential because you can no one else is going to pull the plug on you. If like a publishing house is like, nah, look, it's not working out. We're sorry. Like if you write a book and it doesn't turn out as well or whatever, or you fail or like you can always learn and do it again and go at it again, be better next
Right.
time.
Yeah, and you have the control over that, and
Right.
also can't you edit manuscripts on the fly? Like you can like
Yeah.
re publish things and like
Mhm.
it'll update. So
Yeah.
how do you feel about that? How do you
I,
feel about being able to alter a work after the fact? Like,
yeah. That this is an interesting one. It's a slippery slope. I've heard authors go back and forth about this, and I think ultimately I think it's best, generally speaking, to leave a work when it's done. It's done. You don't get too involved. I've been guilty a few times of tinkering when it's over. Um, I don't think it's particularly helpful. The only time I think it's good is like a few times I've done like I'll do edits like if I find typos or something or like editorial things of like, hey, I need to fix this, like um, then I think like it's fine just to clean it up. It's nice to be able to be like, because I was joking. I was joking the other day. I forget who I was talking to. I think I might have been talking to Amelia that like there are yeah it was
Amelia is Evan's girlfriend, just
yes
for
that's my
everybody who has no idea
yeah,
what he's saying.
sorry, that's my lady. I think she's probably watching right now.
Oh,
But
Amelia.
yeah, I was telling her, I was like, there are these typo gremlins that like I don't care how many times you edit a work, there still somehow is a typo. Like
Yeah.
it's the most insane and infuriating thing ever. Like I don't know. But in general, I think if for no other reason, like it's good for the author to just like when it's done, love it for what it is, even if it has flaws, and just put it out there. And like if you need to make a little tweaks here and there for whatever editing reasons, that's fine. And I've certainly done it in the past. Is it worth it? Like ultimately, it's not going to make a huge difference. I mean, obviously, if it's like riddled with typos and errors, you need to fix it. But like
Yeah.
generally you want to fix that the first time.
No, it's
uh,
true. I mean, like there are things that I've made where I watch it again and I'm like, I wish we shot this a
mhm.
different way, or we
Yeah.
had better
Right.
lighting here, or like I wrote that fucking line better, or like something like that
Yeah.
that we all
100%.
have. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, but that's also can be you just being hyper critical of yourself and of your work, and that mistake might be beautiful to people that are either that are consuming it. So
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
you never know, at least in my opinion, you never know when a mistake is actually not a
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah, and I think especially, I mean, you and I, we work really hard to be critical of ourselves and improve and be better. And so a lot of times when we look, when we look at our own work, we take a critical eye, and we're like, okay,
Sure.
what every single thing that could have been better would have been better. And it's like, yeah, you point out like some things that look like mistakes to you could be beautiful moments to someone else, or beautiful like artistic choices to someone else. And also there's this element that I think like as the creator, you just see things differently than the person viewing it.
That's true.
Like you are when you watch your own films and your own shows and everything you've done, like you just see it differently than other people. It's the same way if you're reading your own book as an author, like you read it differently than other people because you have the foreknowledge, like and yeah, I think that's definitely true. And it's like it's the blessing and the curse of you and I being very critical and trying to we do it for the sake of being improving, but like it can make looking at your own stuff hard sometimes. I always joke that when I read my own works, it's somewhere I'm either going to absolutely be like so psyched about how proud I am of it, or I'm going to be like, this is crap and I did a bad job. But like,
I totally get that.
It's
obviously,
right. It's just the nature of being an artist, I think.
I
think most people who create things feel that way at some point or another.
If you have questions or comments for either me or for Evan on any of the platforms that we are currently on, I will see them. I am keeping my eye on Instagram. I'm keeping my eye on Facebook, and I'm keeping my eye on YouTube. There are people just telling me that I'm attractive on Instagram at the moment. But if you have a question about books or being an author or anything of that nature, please ask. Evan will answer them. He loves to speak as much as I do.
I'll answer anything. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, you can ask him about his feet. He'll talk about his feet, I promise.
Yeah, they're not the best. One of them.
No, they're very weird, but someone might want to know why. But so what got you into I have a very clear understanding of how I found acting for me. What did you have like a oh shit moment, or is it just it just happened over time?
I think in a way both, but it's funny. I like you, I think I've always loved the power of storytelling and the beauty of the art of storytelling. And like we've gone about it in different ways. Though actually not, I mean, you're a writer too. You write scripts and you write.
Yeah, it's not the same thing though.
Right. It is different. It is different. But I think for me, like growing up when we would be playing games or reading books and all this stuff, like I think I just was enthralled with the idea of creating stories and worlds that were outside your own and experiencing these things outside yourself. And I thought it was such a brilliant, like I've always loved the saying, like everything you read or see, all these media you take, it's either like a mirror or a window. You're either seeing yourself in it or you're seeing a window into someone else's life. And I've always loved that. And it probably wasn't until I was in like a senior in high school, because and I always loved this stuff. And then in high school, I was doing a lot of sports and other stuff and getting distracted. And then I had an awesome teacher, Mr. Owens, who he was my AP Lit teacher, and he would give us like creative writing prompts or whatever. And at that point in my life, I wasn't like writing wasn't big on the radar because again, I was BMXing and playing soccer and all these other things, and had all these other interests. And he would like give us a creative writing prompt, and he would like put a sentence up there. He's like, "All right, write whatever you want to write." And I would start writing, and I'd be writing, and the bell would ring, and everyone's leaving, and I'm still writing. And he would just be like, "Pickering," he'd be like, "Pickering, what are you doing? Get out here!" And I remember like I put the pen down and looked down, and I was like, "Holy shit, I loved this!" And it was.
Was it like a compulsion for you? Like you just couldn't stop doing it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was funny. It was like a reminder that I loved these things. Like it was a reminder to myself. Because again, when I was young, when we were super young, and we read like shit crazy. When I was living in Florida and in high school, I was way more into physical sports and BMXing and other extreme shit. But it was like a reminder of my childhood of storytelling. And I was just like, oh my god. And then I started writing stories and giving short stories and giving them to my AP Lit teacher, Mr. Owens, awesome guy. Still talk to him to this day every once in a while.
Mr. Owens.
Shout out Mr. Owens. And he would give me critique, and he would give me legit critique. Like sometimes he'd be like, "This wasn't very good." Sometimes he'd be like, "This works. Like this is powerful and it works." And I was like,
in high school.
Yeah.
Dude, that is so rare. That's awesome
Yeah,
that you had
I
a
know,
person
like,
that would do that.
yeah, he gave me legit feedback, like, not he wasn't sugarcoating anything, and I love that. Um, and it honestly, from that was kind of like, as much as me being in loving stories has been a lifelong thing for sure, as you know about me, but like, it was that moment, the inflection point moment was definitely that when I was like, oh shit, like I missed this and I love this, and I started writing, and I'd write short stories and stuff. And as you remember, when we were in college together, I started writing Lore, my first novel. I never published it, but like, um,
I
it
do.
took me years to write, and it's howling under the bed somewhere. One day I'll maybe I'll go revisit it. But like,
You should. I mean, I just found, I'm not even kidding,
yeah,
because I'm having another child with my wife. My office,
yeah,
yeah,
Uncle,
no, another baby, another girl,
yeah,
every girl
Uncle
got a
Part,
baby.
Uncle Part
Um,
five for
I
me, four.
found one of my old notebooks full of ideas and partially written scripts, and um,
That's awesome.
I found so I wrote a script based off of my time spent working at an overnights at a gas station when I had like I
Yeah.
was basically insane, and I would write things for Evan, and I would present them
This
to
shit
him
was
in the morning because we would
this,
travel to college together. Because yes, we grew up together. We spent almost all of our time together, and we
oh
even went
fuck.
to college together.
This shit was the fun. I guess I know this time of your life was horrendous because you basically weren't sleeping and you were working and going to college and doing all shit, and half times living at living at the apartment.
Yeah.
But like, this shit was hysterical for me. Anyway,
But I
continue.
found them all. So I just found them
Really?
because I saved everything. Yeah.
What? That's
Um,
awesome. Holy shit. I can't
so
believe you still have them.
I mean, I guess I don't know, like I'm not a person that like likes things, but when it comes to my like art things, I'll
Yeah.
save every little scrap of it
Yeah,
just
that's
in
awesome.
case I want to look at it or if I haven't looked at a thing or so
Yeah.
it's cool. So I'm able to see all these cool little bits from what I was writing, and it actually gave me an idea for a new piece. So I think you should go back and look at
Great.
lore and see if it
Yeah.
can be something.
One thing I think is really cool about this, just to go on a little tangent, but like
A little one,
about
just a
just
tiny
I love my tangents.
tangential Evan.
I can't help it. Tangential Evan over here. The this idea of like, I think, I don't know how much of this the old stuff you've read or whatever, but one thing I think was so cool, because I remember, I think like a year or two ago or something, I went back and I just read the first chapter of Lore because I have all of it saved on my hard drives, and I remember, like, while there was certainly flaws to it, like the energy, like I was so 18, 19, 20 years old when I was writing it, you know what I mean? Like,
Was it
and the
very angsty? It's very angsty, right?
it was a combination of angst and also just like incredibly ballsy. Like it was just like it was just kind of, and sometimes I look at my old short stories from when we were in our college eras. I'm like, there was a lot of just like completely balls to the wall shit that was just like, I loved that, and it reminded me of like how much I love the fearless writing, that just like the who gives a shit. And I think I mean I still do that for sure, but it was like the stuff I wrote back then. It was just like I didn't give a shit what it sounded like or whatever. I was just like, it was I wrote a short story about some a group of kids who robbed the same bank twice in the same week. Like just because it was like, to me it was like, it was just ridiculous and crazy. What would happen? Like, what would the bank teller say? And it was just, it was stupid and ridiculous, but I love that. And so I do kind of love, I think one of the cool things about this, like that you've found some of your old work and revisiting, it's like, it's cool. One of the beautiful things about art is that the art you make at certain times of your life, like, represents certain parts and ideas of you, and it represents certain like mindsets and perspectives you had and stuff. And it's really cool to see. Um, in many ways, it's sort of like a journal to yourself. It's like an archive to yourself of like, it's like you're peering into an artistic younger version of yourself. And I think that that's really like fun and cool to do.
We just got to come into this as you guys rock. Thank you so much. You
Yeah.
rock too.
Thank you for watching. You rock. Appreciate you. Appreciate all this stuff. I'm glad we're not rambling up a storm. I
Oh,
mean,
we're
maybe I
definitely
am.
rambling, but we have nice voices, and
Right.
asking questions along the way. So
Yeah,
it's
and
fun.
entertaining rambling. That's the key. The key to
Entertainment,
life is
entertainment ramble.
entertainment.
As long as it makes you smile, it's not a ramble.
As long as you're making people excited and fired up about all the random things you talk about. But yeah, I appreciate it, the viewers. Yeah. Anyway, that was my tangent.
Those are tangent.
Yeah.
So, who is, say, like, your inspiration author wise? Like, who do you read, and how do they affect you in your own work?
I love this question because there's so many. Like, I feel like there's definitely the big ones. There's like a lot of other ones but I think probably the biggest one, especially as a fantasy writer, and you and I are both fans. George R. R. Martin would probably be my biggest.
Yeah, I like him too, but I would also like him to finish his fucking series.
I know, and I hung out with him. I hung out with him at a writing conference once. He's a really nice guy.
You hung out with him? Oh, well, no big deal.
This is a total shameless name drop,
Yeah.
100%. I hung out with him. But the funniest part about this is when you meet someone like that, and I'm sure you know this because you've acted with a lot of well-known actors and stuff like this. Sometimes when you meet people that you're like, oh shit, it's that person.
Yeah.
But you don't want to come off like a complete like moron, like that. Like I'm sitting there talking to George R. R. Martin, and I was like, I was at this conference and he was there, and I was like, hey, what's up, and I wanted to be like, oh my god, I love your work, you're the greatest, but I'm like trying to be reasonable. But I just told him, I was like, hey man, like I love your books. I just want to tell you I'm like a huge fan. I started reading them in college and I really never stopped. And he was so nice. He was just like, that's really nice. He's like, what about you? What do you write? And he totally deflected about himself, and he was really kind to make it about me. And
I will say that's the same way with like other actors too. Like when like you're at a certain place and you're meeting them and you're actually like talking to them in an equality place.
Yeah, like
of course you're gonna be fans of your peers, and then once you're like, I think you're great, then they're just like, all right, cool. Well, why are you here? Like,
you're right, yeah,
for a reason. You're not like at one of my book signings, so
right, yeah, exactly.
Or like I'm not at like outside of a stage door. I'm like on set.
Right, yeah,
with you,
yeah.
So
you're like you're filming something with them, or you're at like a like a conference meeting with other well-known, like a meet and greet with these people. Like you're either
networking.
You're like you're networking, you're doing shit with these people, or you're filming shit with people. So it is different. It is more of a peer perspective than just like someone lining up, to get a book signed or whatever.
Yeah, so why didn't you ask him where his fucking last book is? You should be like, listen,
dude, I wanted to so bad, but I thought he might just
bitch, where's the last book?
I thought he might just like pull a dragon out of his pocket and just incinerate me. And like, I think actually, because like he had his assistant with him, and I think she said to me before, because I was talking to her first, and she's like, yeah, just don't ask him about the books, about the next books. I was like, I wasn't really planning on it because I didn't want to make it contentious, but but as you know, you and I deeply wanted to be like, where the is the next book? I've been waiting for 1,000 years.
Abraham Lincoln, you piece of shit. Where's the last book?
I started reading these books when I was a freshman in college. That was 1,000,000 years ago.
It's the only. So I ripped a book in half, and it's the only book I've ever torn in half was Storm of Swords.
Yeah.
And I've never ripped a book in half again. And
yeah. So anyway, so George R. R. Martin's a big inspiration of mine. I love his work. I love Joe Abercrombie too. He's awesome. I know you got me onto Joe Abercrombie. You and Easton, our friend Easton, got me onto Joe Abercrombie. He's pretty dope. There's tons of other fantasy writers I love, but I think obviously the Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickmans of the world, like the classic fantasies, the Martin Brian Jacques, who did Redwall when I was a kid and all this stuff. Like there's so many weird random influences that led to inspiring me to write. But I think George R. R. Martin probably plays one of the biggest ones for me, because I very much emulate the style. I don't emulate everything in his writing, but I emulate the style of like an engaging, gritty fantasy world, but also like characters that feel really deep and real and multi-layered and like at times morally gray, or like there's like, again, it feels more historical. You know, he based all his stuff on the War of the Roses in England and all that shit.
Right.
Like there's no real like right side and wrong side. It's just like
Right.
people vying for power.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that stuff's
So
cool.
that actually makes a lot of sense, because my next question was, why did you start out in post-apocalyptic? But that kind of answers my question a bit, because it seems like post-apocalyptic is the natural place to go if that's the type of stuff that you are into, or like drawn to, like a
Yeah.
real gritty
Yeah.
problematic world with real people,
Right.
where everything is gray and people are just trying to fucking
Mhm.
survive.
Mhm.
uh yeah, I mean, I probably should have let you answer that question instead
No,
of answering it for you, but
no, but no,
it makes a lot of sense.
you're 100% right, and I love that. I love that question because that was something that was literally the biggest thing that drew me to it. Was like, I love the idea of a story where like there are no longer pretenses. Like people can't pretend to be something really they're not anymore. Like, and
Right.
that's what drew me. And you kind of touched on this with post apoc. That's what drew me to it. Is like I loved the idea. You know, and fantasy does this in some ways too. When you have people like struggling to survive, like there's no longer people pretending. You know, it's like people are who they are. So I love the idea of post apoc because like you could take people like you and me from our world, like, you know, anyone from our world, the world we know, and it's like if you strip down all of the luxury, if you strip down all of the convenience and all of the safety and surety that we have, and instead you threw someone into like a grinder, you know, for all intents and purposes, like
Yeah.
you'd find out exactly who they were. Like you'd find out how good they were and how bad they were. You'd find out how what they considered like where their beliefs truly lay. Sorry. Um, but
Lie.
lie. My grammar at times is idiotic. I don't know. Grammar's hard. But yeah. So that for me, like I loved when I wrote Hood. I was like, I want to take real people that feel like they could be your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, your whatever. I want to take real people from our world and put them in a survival situation at the apocalypse, and like, and so one of the things I'm most proud of with Hood is that like it does. I set out to make it a story that feels like everyone in the story is a real person who is like trying to survive at the end of the world, and that they're not these like there's not these tropes. Not ever like these people are not like like gritty survivalists who are ready to pull a trigger at a moment's notice. Like these are people who used to have jobs and lives and stuff. And I love the idea of like what happens when you take like once like whole people and you throw them into this broken world. And
World, yeah.
yeah, and so that was the big thing for me, and I absolutely love that. And I loved, you know, my first series, my post-apoc series, the American Rebirth series, starting with Hood. That was what I loved most about it, and it was most fun. And I'm really proud that that came through. I think in the stories, because that
And you
was
can find all of these on Amazon by
on
searching
Amazon.
for Evan Pickering.
Yeah,
And they're all worth a read. They're all great.
yeah.
I've read them all except for the new one, and I'm the new one, and I'm going to read that soon. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I think you're gonna really like it, dude.
I
It's
think
dope.
I am too. I'm very amped. Normally, you're supposed to read the thing that you're promoting before you promo it, but you know what? I'm going to be honest. I haven't read it yet, but I'm
Yeah.
excited too.
You know what? When you're doing the promo, like almost immediately after the book gets launched, I think it's understandable.
Yeah, like it launched what, like a
It was like
day ago or something?
nah, it was like a week ago.
Oh, like a week ago? Yeah, I
But
totally know what's going on.
yeah, no. But I think between you and me, bro, I think you're really gonna love it. Not only because I think it's the best book I've written, but I think it's like I really hit my stride with writing fantasy with this one. And in early indications from readers and from feedback I've gotten from people is that they really fucking love it, and that really gets me fired up. So
That's awesome. And
so
that's what you want to hear.
from bro to bro, I think you'll really enjoy it. So it'll be cool.
I'm excited. I'm excited to read it. So we've been talking for nearly one whole hour.
Oh my god, that's
Oh my
crazy.
goodness. So I am going to stop talking to you.
All right, dog. Well, I appreciate you having me on here, dude. This was awesome. I just
Yeah.
like
So can you please tell the people where they can find you on social media? What are your handles?
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok. I am trying to build a book talk account. I am just I believe it's Evan Pickering author. Let me double check that. I'm sorry. You can find me on Twitter. You can just look up Evan Pickering author on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter as much these days. TikTok is the big thing. My handle. You can either look up Evan Pickering or at Evan Writes Books. That's my current TikTok handle. I'm trying to,
Cool.
Book Talk is a big place for writers, so I'm trying to get on there.
Yeah, people, the like book talk is really supportive too. Like
Right.
I'm not part of it, but watching them all support each other is really is really heartwarming because in my
It's cool.
industry, it's very hard for people to find that there is a lot of competition, a lot of
Yeah,
really toxic competition. So it's nice to
that
see
sucks.
um, book
Yeah,
people just embracing each other. Like you know, like the gnarliest, most pornographic romance novelist is just embracing like the grittiest, like most
yeah,
hardcore post-apocalyptic person. Like
yeah,
they just hugging and
yeah. It's
hurting
really cool.
each other. It's fantastic.
I agree. It's really cool. It's cool to see a whole community kind of like bonding over a shared love of reading and books and stuff. And outside of just the marketing purposes of being on there, I also just kind of like really like it. Like people have been really nice and everyone's really cool. And, there's a lot of like you said, a lot of support and a lot of love and it's awesome. So that's kind of where I'm focused on a lot now. You can also find, my website, evanpickeringauthor.com. You can find all my books on there. You can sign up for my newsletter if you want to get updates on books and other stuff I'm working on and sales for my books and things like that. Um, yeah, and then obviously you can find my books on Amazon. Just look up Evan Pickering, and you can see them all there. Or
Blam.
yeah, all that jazz.
All right, Evan. I really appreciate you being here tonight, and it was a pleasure speaking with you, like it always is.
Yeah,
Uh,
bro.
and I will talk to you very, very soon.
All right, dude. Thank you for everything. This was awesome, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Thanks so much for being here. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to the first live stream live. I'm going to try to do multiple of these a month and speak to people that I think are very, very interesting and that I think you would think are very, very interesting. Um, depending on what platform you are on, you can like, you can subscribe, you can subscribe to my membership on my Instagram. I am dropping a new episode of my TV show after this evening, episode 5. I've got if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, there's links and descriptions to my stuff, Evan's stuff. And if you're watching on Instagram, there's links in my bio. And yeah, that's my rambly weird end of this live. But I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And I'll see you again very soon. Good night.